Stories start with a guy thinking this is definitely not how he expected his very first day of adulthood to start. He looks up from the ground, completely overwhelmed by the presence of the massive woman standing in the alleyway. He feels like he's being towered over by a giant. This massive older woman appeared out of nowhere, looking like a powerful bunny girl who is ready to tame him. A small, nervous-looking guy is being squeezed in a tight hug by a tall, incredibly muscular woman with long blonde hair. This looks like the start of a feel-good comedy about a guy who meets a massive, sweet girl who has absolutely no sense of personal space. The story follows Hajime Ogami, a 22-year-old who is a total nervous wreck. He's lying in bed, sweating and stressed because tomorrow is his first official day of being a real adult. To make things even harder, he's been sent all the way from Tokyo to work in Fukuoka, and the move is making his heart race. He tosses and turns in his room, feeling completely isolated. He worries that he's in a place where he doesn't know anyone and has no one to lean on for help. He stares at the ceiling and wonders if he's even going to make it through his new life. Eventually, he gives up on trying to sleep and sits up with a heavy sigh. He decides that he needs to head out into the night to get some fresh air and clear his racing mind. Out on the street, he finds himself looking at the beautiful city skyline under a full moon. He realizes that even though he's in a strange new city, the glowing lights are actually quite comforting and help him feel a bit better. He takes a deep, refreshing breath of the night air. For the first time all night, he looks like he's actually starting to relax and enjoy the quiet moment. He stands up straight and tells himself that nothing beats a late night walk to feel better. He feels a sense of adventure as he explores his new home, finding comfort in the city lights. He thinks it's actually fun to explore a new city without having a specific destination in mind. He wanders into a shady-looking back alley and thinks it looks cool, so he pulls out his phone to snap a photo of some industrial fans on the wall. He thinks that there is something weirdly cool about industrial fans. Suddenly, a woman's voice right next to him agrees with him. He is completely caught off guard to find a tall, muscular woman leaning over his shoulder to look at his phone. The poor guy lets out a loud scream and falls backward in total shock. He scrambles away on the ground, pointing at her and desperately asking who she is as she looks down at him with a calm smile. The woman introduces herself as Usagi Takatsuki, a 28-year-old who calls herself a friendly neighborhood drunk just passing through. He stays on the ground looking up at her incredible physique and nervously tells him that his name is Hajime Ogami. Usagi puts a hand to her chin and asks if he's even old enough to be out drinking. He quickly tells her that he's 22 and will be 23 this year, but she is shocked because she thinks he looks much younger than that. He asks her what exactly she is doing in this place. She explains that the guy she was drinking with earlier totally ditched her, which made her pretty angry. She tells him that she decided to take a walk to cool her head, which is why she ended up wandering through the same back alley as him. Usagi takes a big sip of her drink and tells him that being out like this just feels right and is incredibly relaxing. Hajime stands there looking completely stunned by her sudden friendly attitude. Hajime starts to blush and enthusiastically agrees, telling her that he totally understands exactly what she means. He explains that a night walk really helps clear his mind and that the glowing city lights keep him from feeling so isolated. Usagi smiles warmly and agrees that it truly is a comforting sight. Suddenly, she pulls him into a massive, bone-crushing hug, shouting that they are definitely on the same wavelength. Hajime is completely caught off guard, his face squished against her while he lets out a surprised yell. Usagi asks if he has any other plans for the rest of the night, and he admits that he doesn't really have anything else going on. She decides that since he is free, there is something they should do. She leans in with a mischievous look and asks him if he would like to help her blow off some steam. Hajime starts to panic and desperately asks what she could possibly mean by that. Without explaining, she simply tells him to stop worrying and just come along with her. Before he can even react, she grabs his hand and starts sprinting across the city street. He can barely keep up as she drags him toward their mysterious destination under the full moon. The sounds of happy munching and chomping fill the air as they clearly stop to enjoy a late-night meal together. They end up at a karaoke bar where Usagi sings her heart out, loudly proclaiming her love for someone named Inuemon. Poor Hajime sits on the sidelines, sweating nervously while he tries his best to politely clap along to her energetic performance. Usagi complains that the vibe in the room has completely died, but Hajime explains that he only picked that specific anime song because she told him to. He apologizes for not knowing the older version she was expecting, which shocks her because she believes that when it comes to that series, only the original version counts. Usagi sighs and wonders if this is what people mean by a generation gap, while Hajime starts to feel like he is being a bit of a disappointment to her. She leans right over him and tells him it is time to get moving, which causes him to shout in surprise at how close she suddenly is. When she asks him if anything is wrong, he nervously claims he is just wondering what he should sing next, while secretly thinking that being alone in a private room with a woman like her is actually a dream scenario. Usagi sits right next to him and tells him to hurry up, making him blush furiously as he admits to himself that he has absolutely no idea where he should be looking. As the screen displays some very dramatic lyrics about being a servant of the gods, Usagi cheers him on loudly, saying that even though she doesn't know the song, he should give it everything he has got. Hajime starts to sing, but quickly realizes with horror that the song includes embarrassing spoken word and rap parts, while even Usagi begins to look completely mortified in the background. His singing is so quiet and awkward that she starts heckling him relentlessly, shouting that she cannot understand a word he is saying, and telling him to sing from his gut. With tears starting to well up in his eyes, Hajime realizes that this is the absolute worst, and that his dream situation has done a complete 180-degree turn into a nightmare. Usagi walks over and asks him if he is getting stage fright, and he sheepishly admits that he usually just goes to karaoke all by himself. Usagi tells Hajime not to worry and to just sing, advising him that he needs to loosen up his shoulders while she gives him a massage. Hajime finds it ironic that she is being so supportive now, especially since she feels like she was just making fun of him a moment ago. A very exhausted-looking waitress arrives with 4 massive highballs, and Usagi tells Hajime that she ordered a round for him as well, so he should start drinking. Hajime is completely shocked and asks if she is seriously still planning to keep drinking after everything they have already had. The two of them finally hit their stride and start singing their hearts out together, looking like they are having the time of their lives as they scream into their microphones. After they finish, a relaxed Usagi mentions that she really sang her heart out and got the stress relief she needed, thanking Hajime for hanging out with her. He tells her it was no problem because he feels exactly the same way. But then she pulls out a pack of cigarettes and asks if he minds if she has a smoke before they settle the bill. Inside the designated smoking room, Usagi lights up and asks Hajime if he smokes too, to which he replies that he is just using a nicotine-free vape. She thinks that is quite trendy of him and then asks what exactly brought him out for his late-night walk in the first place. Hajime explains that his orientation is scheduled for the next day, so he was feeling a bit anxious and needed to clear his head. He tells her about moving all the way from Tokyo to Fukuoka for this new job, and admits he is worried about whether he will be able to fit in, but she tells him he really shouldn't sweat it. Usagi puts her arm around him and points out that he is already talking to her just fine, which makes Hajime realize that she has a very good point. He takes another puff of his vape while she gives him an encouraging wink and a thumbs up. Taking a slow, calm drag of her cigarette, Usagi tells him that he really shouldn't worry himself about things so much. She looks him right in the eye and explains that when it comes to dealing with people, a workplace is not like a school, and he does not have to force himself to be best buddies with everyone he meets there. She finishes her advice by saying that as long as he focuses on doing his job, he can just cruise through the rest of his day without any extra pressure. Hajime asks if being a functioning adult is really that simple, and Usagi confirms that it is. She tells him that starting a new job doesn't mean he has to instantly change who he is, and she offers him her contact info via a QR code. Usagi lets him know that he can rely on her since he's new in town, even offering him her support if things ever get too rough for him. She tells him to take it easy on his big day tomorrow while he nervously agrees, feeling her powerful pat on his back. They decide to end their night, and Usagi insists on paying for everything, telling him to go wait outside while she settles the bill. Hajime stands under the night sky feeling much more positive and grateful for the support he received. He starts feeling confident about his first day of work, just as a very drunk and hiccuping Usagi finally catches up to him. Things take a turn for the worse when Usagi suddenly loses the battle with her stomach and lets out a massive retch. Hajime panics and asks if she's alright, while she admits she almost made it through without getting sick. The poor guy can only watch in absolute horror as the muscular woman continues to get sick right next to him. Usagi ends up on the ground in defeat, apologizing and admitting she overdid at the drinking since it had been a while. Hajime tries to be nice and tells her not to worry, while she mumbles about being a total loser. Usagi is looking absolutely wrecked, crying and drooling as she confesses that she acted like a cool mentor but ended up making a total scene. Hajime is staring at her in complete shock, trying to tell her it isn't like that, but she insists that she is always this way. She continues her sad story, admitting that she always tries to put up a front to look cool for everyone. She says that things usually go well for a bit, but then her mask slips, everything falls apart, and she just ends up being a burden to others. Things get even more dramatic as she cries that she's just so lonely, and that, like her name implies, she's like a rabbit that dies if left all alone. She admits she tried to convince herself she was better off being by herself, but she clearly didn't actually believe it. She looks down in shame, saying she must be a total disaster, and that it's no wonder her date ditched her tonight. She apologizes profusely for dumping all of her personal problems on a junior she literally just met. Suddenly, she starts laughing through her tears, wondering out loud why she is so bad at life, and what she's even doing. She tells Hajime that honestly, the whole situation is starting to feel kind of funny to her. Usagi erupts into hysterical laughter, which makes Hajime wonder if he actually just broke something in her brain.
The laughter doesn't last long, though, as she immediately starts gagging and retching again in a total mess. Hajime is left patting her back as she slumps over, miserable and wondering why things always end up this way for her. He realizes that while he thought she was just a positive and upbeat person, she's actually a complete disaster. She looks incredibly vulnerable as she looks away, sighing that all she really wants is to just have a good time with someone else. Hajime watches her sadly, wondering if there is even anything a stranger like him can do to help her. He has a strong gut feeling that getting involved with this woman is going to lead to a mountain of trouble. Despite the warning signs, he remembers how much she helped him out earlier and decides that Takatsuki-san is actually a good person. He feels like he owes her for her kindness, even if she is a total handful. Usagi wipes away a tear, looking totally vulnerable after her emotional outburst. Hajime clenches his hand over his chest, his face heating up as he works up the courage to say something big. He drops down to her level and nervously suggests that she should just hang out with him from then on. Usagi looks over at him, completely surprised by his sudden and bold offer. She stares at him with wide, shocked eyes, clearly caught off guard by what he just said. Hajime gets all flustered and explains that he was actually pretty worried about being lonely in the new city himself. He shyly adds that his offer only stands if she is actually okay with it. He starts walking away, covering his face in pure embarrassment because he thinks he sounds like a total creep. Behind him, Usagi silently stands up, her expression hidden as she watches him go. Suddenly, she grabs him and hoists him high into the air with her incredible strength, shouting in excitement to ask if he is actually being for real. Hajime is totally stunned by the sudden liftoff. She starts spinning him around in a joyful circle, cheering about how happy she is and claiming she has found a second wind of energy. Meanwhile, poor Hajime is spinning so fast that he ends up completely dizzy with stars circling his head. She leans in with a big enthusiastic smile and tells him that she is looking forward to seeing him every single day. Hajime's jaw drops in shock as he wonders if she really meant every single day. She waves a cheerful goodbye, shouting that she will see him tomorrow as she heads off into the night. As he walks home alone, he sighs and worries that he might have definitely overstepped his bounds with his earlier suggestion. The next morning, Hajime wakes up to a phone that will not stop buzzing with 31 unread notifications. Usagi has already sent a flood of texts asking where to go, wondering if he is still asleep, and accusing him of ghosting her, giving him a very bad feeling about the day ahead. Hajime is at his orientation, trying to focus as the morning begins, with a loud welcome for all the new employees at the company. He is feeling nervous, but he tries to keep his cool as a tall, professional-looking woman in a suit walks past his desk. The woman introduces herself as Takatsuki and announces that she will be in charge of their training starting that day. She looks incredibly sharp in her business suit as she tells the new hires that she expects them to carry themselves as professionals from that moment forward. As their eyes finally meet, both Hajime and Takatsuki freeze in total disbelief. They both stare at each other with wide, shocked eyes as the realization of who they are looking at finally hits them. The entire office is startled when the two of them suddenly point at each other and shout in unison. Their coworkers watch in complete confusion as the new trainee and the supervisor react like they have just seen something impossible. Takatsuki begins to sweat profusely and looks like she is about to panic, while Hajime's mind races as he realizes that the wild woman from the night before is actually his new boss. He looks at her professional suit and then thinks back to the total mess she was just a few hours earlier. He can hardly believe that his first day on the job is starting with the discovery that his supervisor is the same girl who is getting sick in a back alley. Hajime tries his best to stay calm, but he admits to himself that the situation is getting incredibly awkward. Takatsuki asks him why he is just spacing out, leading him to quickly apologize and address her as his senior. He puts on a serious face and decides that since his supervisor is acting strictly like a professional now, he needs to get his head in the game and do the same. He tells himself that he needs to focus and prove that he can handle the job. Takatsuki leans over his shoulder and praises him for working so quickly, encouraging him to keep up that great momentum for the rest of his tasks. She then easily switches gears to greet another coworker who is passing by. She tells him that she already finished organizing all the materials for the day's meeting and suggests that he look them over when he has a chance. Hajime is shocked at her efficiency, and he watches as she walks away while professionally answering a business call on her phone. Takatsuki Senpai handles a professional call with a smile while Hajime watches her from his desk. When another coworker mentions being stuck on a task, she kindly offers to take a look and help them out. Hajime reflects on how incredible his new boss is for being able to train rookies and manage her own massive workload at the same time. He thinks to himself that she is definitely the star player of the entire office. He sits at his desk, amazed that the wild person he encountered the night before turned out to be such a high-level professional. During the lunch break, Hajime receives a message from Usagi telling him to meet her at the smoking area on the 15th floor outdoor stairs. He nervously heads toward the door to find her. As soon as he steps onto the stairs, Usagi pins him against the wall with her arm and loudly welcomes him to the company. Hajime is completely startled by her sudden change in attitude. She leans in close and asks him if he has kept quiet about everything that happened the previous night. A sweating and terrified Hajime quickly confirms that he hasn't told a single soul. Usagi lets out a huge sigh of relief, admitting that she was seriously panicking about her life being over. She lists off all the different types of harassment charges she was worried about facing. They stand together on the landing as she talks about how incredibly strict modern companies have become regarding office rules. Hajime agrees, saying he has definitely heard some horror stories about those things. She complains that people are just way too sensitive about small things these days, even for someone like her. Hajime listens carefully as he starts to formulate a thought about their current situation. He looks at her with a serious expression and suggests that they probably shouldn't be hanging out alone together. He points out that it would be quite bad if their coworkers started getting the wrong idea about their relationship. Takatsuki-san suddenly bursts into loud, hysterical tears, completely losing her professional composure right there on the stairs. She starts comically pummeling poor Hajime with her fists, crying out about why he would say something so cruel. She asks if everything he said the night before was just a big lie and shouts that she knew he actually hated her, while he desperately tries to tell her she has the wrong idea. Hajime quickly clarifies that he only meant they should be careful while they are actually at the office, and that their time outside of work is a totally different story. Takatsuki-san immediately stops her tantrum, looking at him with wide, hopeful eyes as she asks if he really truly means it. With tears still on her blushing cheeks, she clasps her hands together and asks if he will really hang out with her again later that day.
Hajime looks completely flustered but gives in and tells her that of course he will. After a moment of happy giggling on the floor, she suddenly leaps up with her arms in the air and shouts a loud victory cry. She exclaims that she feels like she has found her second wind, leaving Hajime standing there totally stunned by her sudden burst of energy. In her excitement, she gets way too close and accidentally knocks into him, making him stumble. She quickly catches him and admits to herself with a heavy sigh that she really needs to start watching her boundaries while they are still at the workplace. She clears her throat and admits that she totally lost her cool and feels embarrassed about the whole scene. She tells him it is time to get back to their desks and finish the rest of the workday as strong as they can. By the end of the day, Hajime looks absolutely exhausted and tells him that he is completely wiped out. Takatsuki-san is still full of energy though, and gives him a friendly pat on the shoulder while telling him that he did a great job for his very first day. They head toward a restaurant with a large banner hanging over the door. She announces that she is going to treat him to some top-tier Hakata soul food as a special reward for all his hard work. The two of them sit down together in the ramen shop as a delicious-looking bowl of noodles is placed on their table. Hajime stares at the food in awe and mentions that it looks absolutely incredible. Usagi ties up her hair while commenting on the powerful aroma of the authentic tonkotsu ramen. Hajime mentions that this is his first time trying the real stuff, and Usagi explains that for this kind of ramen, a stronger smell usually means a much better flavor.
Hajime slurps out his first bite and is immediately impressed, exclaiming that the taste is absolutely amazing. Usagi is glad he enjoys it and decides it is finally her turn to dig into her own bowl. She looks incredibly satisfied while eating, mentioning that her meal is exactly what her body needed after such a long and tiring day. While they eat, Usagi asks Hajime what he typically does when he is hanging out at home. He tells her that he mostly spends his time on solo hobbies, which makes her curious to know what kind of things he is into. Hajime admits that he has been really into sewing lately, which surprises Usagi, although she notes that he must be very skilled with his hands. He then asks her what she likes to do for fun, and she starts to loosen her stiff work shirt to get more comfortable while she thinks of an answer. Usagi reveals that her main hobby is working out, but she admits a bit sadly that she doesn't have many friends, and mostly just visits the gym or the convenience store. Hajime notices her looking a bit down and quickly tries to comfort her, telling her that it is perfectly fine. With a kind smile, Hajime tells her that since they know each other now, they should find some new and fun things to do together. Usagi looks completely stunned by his thoughtful and welcoming offer. She cheers up instantly and happily agrees that she is really looking forward to it, though her excitement is so intense that her buttons look like they are about to snap under the pressure. One of Usagi's buttons suddenly flies off with a loud pop, leaving her completely shocked. Hajime can only stare in disbelief at the sudden wardrobe malfunction that just occurred right in front of him. Usagi looks down at her open shirt, her face turning bright red with pure embarrassment. She seems totally mortified and flustered by what just happened in the middle of their meal. Usagi starts to spiral into a panic, wondering if she actually ate so much that she burst her own clothes. Hajime desperately tries to calm her down, suggesting that the thread was probably just loose or something. Usagi suddenly remembers something important and asks Hajime if he didn't just mention earlier that he knew how to sew. Hajime hesitantly confirms that he does indeed have that skill.
She points directly at the gap in her shirt and asks if he can fix it for her right at that moment. Hajime is completely frozen by the request, his eyes wide with total shock and confusion. She leans back and tells him to hurry up, looking slightly impatient while she waits for him to start. Poor Hajime can barely process the reality of the situation as he prepares to help her. Hajime starts the delicate task while blushing furiously, wondering what kind of crazy situation he has managed to land himself in. Usagi notices how much he is looking and tells him to stop staring so much, which makes him apologize immediately. Hajime's eyes are practically popping out of his head as he realizes that staying focused is much easier said than done when the view is right in front of him. All he can think about is the distracting sight of her cleavage, the beads of sweat on her skin, and the intense scent coming from her as he tries to work with his needle. As they stand in an incredibly awkward and suggestive position in the back alley, Hajime worries that anyone seeing them would think they are doing something totally inappropriate. He tells himself that he needs to stay calm and just get a grip on his racing thoughts. Usagi complains that holding her pose is actually getting kind of exhausting and suspiciously asks Hajime if he is thinking about anything weird while he works. Hajime, looking incredibly stressed and flustered, pleads with her to just stay still for one more second and offers a quick apology for the awkward situation. Usagi checks her shirt and is impressed that he is finally finished, praising him for being so good at sewing. She beams with a warm smile and calls him a total lifesaver for fixing her wardrobe disaster so quickly. Hajime looks genuinely relieved that the high-pressure task is over, and shyly tells her that he is just glad he was able to help her out in a pinch. Usagi insists that she absolutely has to do something to pay him back for his kindness. Hajime tries to wave the offer off, saying it really isn't necessary, but she refuses to take no for an answer and claims she has the perfect idea. She suddenly asks if he wants to come over to her place the next day, which sends Hajime into a state of total confusion. He shouts in surprise when she mentions doing some nighttime training for the rookie at her house, wondering what on earth they would even do there. Usagi mentions having cards and Uno, but Hajime thinks those games aren't much fun with only 2 people. She then suggests staying up late to talk about their crushes, which makes Hajime wonder if they are having a middle school sleepover. Setting the jokes aside, she tells him with a mischievous look that she actually has something special waiting for him at her apartment. Hajime gulps nervously, repeating her words about a something special while his mind starts to race. She puts a finger to her lips with a playful grin and tells him that the whole thing is a big secret.
Hajime can only let out an exhausted sound as he tries to process her mysterious and overwhelming energy. Usagi giggles and tells him to just look forward to the next day because it is finally her turn to take the lead. Hajime stands there looking completely dazed by her sudden confidence and the way she flaunts her strength. With a look of pure excitement, she promises to give him the full VIP treatment when he visits. Hajime's heart and his expectations both start to race at the thought of what she has planned for him. The story ends with Hajime's wide-eyed, panicked face as he desperately tries to figure out what VIP treatment and a special surprise could possibly mean. He is left wondering in total shock what on earth she is actually planning for their meeting tomorrow.
As they stand outside her door, Usagi tells him not to be shy and invites him right in. Hajime is a total nervous wreck, thinking about how his life is moving at a terrifying speed. But the moment he steps inside, his romantic expectations are completely crushed. He stares in horror at the absolute mountain of trash and clothes everywhere, wondering if this is really how a girl's room is supposed to look. Usagi casually apologizes for the mess and explains that there's barely any floor space left. She tells him to just find a spot and make himself at home. She mentions that she really meant to clean up the day before, but she just got too sleepy. Then, without any warning, she starts taking off her work clothes right in front of him. Hajime starts panicking and asks her what on earth she's planning to do. She laughs it off, saying it was just a force of habit and that she didn't mean to start stripping. But then, disaster strikes. She trips over her own pants and face plants onto the floor. She groans that she can't get up and begs Hajime to help her out of her clothes. Once she finally gets changed into some gym clothes, she admits that the whole situation was pretty embarrassing. Hajime tries to tell her not to worry about it, even though he's realized she's still basically in her underwear. Usagi decides to shake off the awkwardness and promises to whip him up a home-cooked meal as a treat. However, when they get to the kitchen, it's even worse than the living room. It's covered in old cans and cigarette butts. Instead of cleaning, Usagi just lights up another smoke and wonders if she should maybe clean a little bit first. That's the final straw for Hajime. He screams that he can't take it anymore and begs her to just let him clean the place himself. He's so determined to fix the mess that he starts scrubbing everything in sight, even accidentally grabbing her laundry in his cleaning frenzy. By the time he's done, the entire apartment is sparkling. Usagi is amazed, saying it's been forever since she's actually seen her own floor. She tells him how great he is and gives him a huge, suffocating hug as a thank you. She finally gets to work in the kitchen, cooking with a ton of energy, while Hajime watches her and wonders if she's actually going to be okay. Hajime is totally spacing out, thinking about that H-cup bra size he spotted earlier. He can't get it out of his head. Usagi snaps him out of it, bringing out her bunny special Chinese combo. She nervously warns him not to complain about the food not being fancy, but Hajime thinks it actually looks delicious and starts digging in. He's really impressed by the bold flavor, and Usagi agrees that good food deserves some liquid gold as she hands him a beer. Once the plates are empty, she tells him it's finally time for that special treat she promised. She heads behind a sliding door, telling him absolutely no peeking. Hajime's mind starts racing, wondering if he's about to walk into some kind of wild bunny girl party. But then she reveals a hookah. She tells him she figured he'd be into it since he mentioned vaping earlier. She gets a little worried when he looks shocked, asking if maybe he's not actually into it. Hajime quickly tells her that he's actually super excited because he's always wanted to try hookah but felt like the barrier to entry was too high. Usagi is so relieved she almost cries, mentioning that her drunk impulse purchase finally paid off. They spend the next while just chilling out. Hajime calls her Takatsuki senpai, but she tells him to stop because it's way too stiff. She insists that he should just use her first name instead. Hajime gets all flustered, saying that feels a bit too forward. Suddenly, Usagi blocks the exit. She declares that she isn't letting him go home until he calls her by her first name. Hajime starts panicking, but a part of him wonders if staying quiet means he gets to spend the night. He tries to say it, but slips up, calling her Usagi-senpai again. Finally, he gathers his courage and manages to say Usagi-san. She isn't done with him yet, though. She grabs his face and tells him to look her in the eye and say it one more time.
Under all that pressure, he ends up shouting her name as loud as he can. She laughs and says she's totally satisfied now, letting him finally leave. As he's heading out, she just calls him Ogami-kun, and he realizes he never got a turn to hear his own first name. He walks away feeling like the tables have turned, and he's the one crushing on her now. He tells himself not to expect anything crazy, but he still gives her a sweet goodnight. Just as Hajime is about to walk away, Usagi leans out of her doorway with this huge, incredibly sweet smile. She finally gives him what he was waiting for and tells him goodnight, but she uses his first name, calling him Hajime-kun. The door clicks shut, leaving Hajime standing all alone in the quiet hallway. But look at his face. He's completely malfunctioning. His face is bright red and his heart is pounding so hard he has to clutch his chest just to catch his breath. He's totally overwhelmed and thinks to himself that her saying his name like that was a complete chief shot. He ends up slumped over against the railing, absolutely defeated by how cute that farewell was.